I'm going to go through every set at the Forge because the Forge has the best sets, and I'm going to say whether I would or would not pick this one, or why or am not wearing it for. So hey y'all, how you doing today? CVMG here, back with a little bit more Infinite Magic Raid. Now, I've been wanting to make a video guide on Christian for a while, and I've actually been planning on it because he was my main carry in my free-to-play challenge account all the way to Hell Mode, and then once he gets to Hell Mode, his effectiveness is increased, and I can explain to you how that happens in this video. I am making for you today a Christian complete guide. This is just going to be a 100% builds, gear, equipment, uses, abilities, exclusives, all of it. And now is a perfect time to start doing that because a new season of the Battle Order starts today, and Christian is available to you in that Battle Order as the first character available, so you can guarantee that you get his exclusive weapon level 1, which makes him basically just like 3 times better. And I'll explain that as well. So first of all, let's get into Christian. So here I have my Christian on my free-to-play challenge account that I made him my main carry in the beginning to carry me all the way to Hell Mode. He carried me to Hell Mode no problem without any exclusive equipments, but just for the sake of it, we're going to go through all of his kits and abilities with exclusive equipments accounted for. So, starting with his first ability, we have Sword and Shield Strike. Deals 2 stages of up to 100% damage to a single enemy. The second stage attack has a 20% chance to inflict a stun for 1 turn. 20% chance is not a lot, but as a first skill, to have a bonus effect on your first skill, stun is probably the most effective one for Arena. So if you have a holder and you need to counter the holder, stun is 100% the best way to counter holder. Stun is really the best way to counter everyone's carry. So that it can be useful for that if you get lucky enough. I've had several stuns pop off at the same time too, like over and over. Okay, next skill we have Guardian's Gift. This one is his saving grace. Grants a shield of 20% of Christian's max HP on all allies for 2 turns. Now 20% HP, nothing to sneeze at because it can protect your squishies, but the magic happens in the exclusive weapon. Whenever you upgrade it the first time, whenever Guardian's Gift is released, you get another action turn. So that means you put the shield on everybody, and then you use your AoE attack that whenever is upgraded through its exclusive equipment can also stun the enemy, but that's like a guaranteed stun. So that's really, really good, especially with a 3-turn cooldown. That means if you get a bonus turn, it's basically a 2-turn cooldown. How long does it last? Lasts for 2 turns. You basically get to have the shield up at all times. Very, very good. Has carried me through a lot of troubles. People were like, how do you keep your squishies alive? Every single time I have an A1 character in a Hell Mode stage, they get 1 shot. This is how I do it. That's how I do it. Moving on, we have his passive skill Sword Charge. There's a 24% chance to shorten Sword of Justice's cooldown by 1 turn whenever Christian is attacked by a basic attack or takes skill damage. Sword of Justice is his area of effect attack that also stuns. Now this is pretty good, but also keep in mind that whenever you have his exclusive weapon at level 2, whenever that triggers, he gets a 20% attack buff. So, as he's being attacked, getting the cooldown of Sword of Justice lowered, he's also increasing his attack, so the next time he uses it, it does a little bit more damage. And lastly, of course, is Sword of Justice. Deals 300% damage to all enemies with a 4-turn cooldown, and of course every time he gets hit, has a chance to lower that turn cooldown to where he's basically using the ability every turn or every other turn. You also have to remember with the exclusive equipment, whenever Sword of Justice is released, it has a chance to stun the main target. Now the higher their HP is, the higher chance it is to stun. This is very, very useful for countering super strong carries like Holder and Arena. At least through the early game. Of course, there's other I'm not getting into Holder stuff right now. I'm just not getting into it. So that covers his kit. It's all pretty useful. You know, every single ability is there's not a wasted ability. It's not like this is something that he uses that you're like, aw, I wish he didn't use that. Unless you don't have his exclusive weapon upgrades and he uses like the shield and you don't need him to use that. And that's why it's all the more important to get that first exclusive equipment upgrade from the Battle Season Pass or whatever it's called this round. For the emblems, I went main defense and then sub attack. I'm going to go through the ones that I did and tell you why I set them. Of course, I picked HP because his shield is based off of his HP. It's going to be more helpful to the entire team over defense. For this emblem, I chose Thorns because he's able to reflect 6% of the damage that's done to him, and he's able to have a lot of HP, so you can reflect a decent amount of damage right there. Upgraded some Leech just because he was my carry, and I used him to solo bosses. So if you want to solo bosses, Leech is very useful for that to keep you alive. Also restore more HP for every ally that died. That way, if I'm carrying like a boss or something and it's getting a little bit difficult, all of my allies get wiped out with an attack, he can get like a decent heal and try and bring it back. Under God's Wings, for every 1 teammate survived on the battlefield, increases crit damage. That's pretty obvious for a turn 1 arena ability. the enemies will have full health, so you can do extra damage to them like that. For every 1 attribute debuff, damage received is decreased, and this can be stacked up to 2. The reason I picked this one is just because I didn't care about enemies with higher speed receiving more damage, because I planned on taking turn 1 anyways and applying a speed buff to him. So in the arena, that wouldn't be too helpful to me. Now for the next one, I picked Unremitting Efforts. Restores 3% max HP at the beginning of the turn if a control status is effective. So if he's stunned and I'm kind of SOL for that turn, that could be a little bit of a saving grace. And lastly, for the final tier, of course, I picked crit damage received minus 30%, because that is just like, that's the best one. That is the best one. If you went defense and you picked something else, you picked wrong. This is the one. All right, for sub-attack, I think it's pretty obvious I chose attack because I was using him to carry. He is in my arena rotation, and he does do a little bit of damage, even if it's not a lot. He did do a lot of damage in the beginning. Increases the crit rate because I want 100% crit rate so that I don't guarantee, like, you know, a glancing blow. I want to guarantee the crit. I don't want to have the chance of a glancing blow screwing me over and not getting a kill because of that. Next, whenever damage is full, HP plus 6%. That's pretty self-explanatory. If I'm going turn 1, then I will have full HP. When attacking a target with shield, damage plus 9%. I do that because people have characters like Fegan or whatever. I cannot remember the name of the legendary that does it, but he applies like a shield on turn 1. That's helpful for taking those types of teams down. Arrogant, damage dealt the first turn plus 9%, self-explanatory. Pay off old scores. For every 1 attribute debuff born, damage plus 3%. The effect can be stacked. The reason I have that is because I have a lot of debuffs on my team. I have like speed break, attack break, defense break. I just have a lot of debuffs, so it's very helpful for my team. That might not be helpful if your team doesn't have a lot of debuffs. And if your team did not have a lot of debuffs, then I would probably consider taking strength build up. Whenever there was no valid debuff, the damage would be increased. Tier 5, I went Brave Enemies when attacking targets with more than 70% HP. Damage increase, self-explanatory for turn 1 arena strategies. Increases the damage by 6% when attacking a target whose HP is below 50%. Now that's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, to where if I went through my entire rotation and the enemy had like 10% HP and was surviving, I would want to be able to finish them off. And then when that is maxed, you can't get tier 6 of your sub for emblems. So that's what I chose, and why I chose those. Of course, there's nuance to every situation. There will be a situation, this is better, a situation, this is better. This is just what I used for leveling and what I still use to this day for arena. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and hop in the Forge, and I'm going to talk about the gear that I would suit him up with, because the Forge has the best sets, starting with the Fearless set. Mastery is wasted, but you still get 15% crit rate and 10% leech, so I would give Fearless set a go, but it wouldn't be my first pick. Now the Tough set would be one of my first picks. We get 20% HP rate to help increase the effectiveness of the second skill, Tenacity plus 20% to take even less crit damage to stack with our emblems, and then Effect Resistance to make sure that we don't get crowd controlled. There are 60% stats here, and none of them are wasted. So that is, in my opinion, by far the best set you could suit him up with. Next is going to be First Aid set. Speed rate plus 10%, that's good. Effect hit plus 20%, that'll help his stuns, and healing effect plus 20%. That doesn't work with leech, and Christian doesn't really have self-healing except from emblems, so I would not recommend the First Aid set, because really you're only getting 30% stats, and effect hit isn't really important for Christian either. Moving on, Slay set. Attack percent plus 8%, crit damage plus 20%. So that's 28% damaging stats. Honestly, if you had this set, I wouldn't put it on a Christian. I would probably save it for your Margarita or something. So I wouldn't do that one. Wild set. Attack plus 8%, crit rate plus 15%. Crit rate is good for everybody, no matter what. There's no situation where you're like, oh yeah, dealing double damage from this character isn't really that useful, because it's even good for supports. So I do support the Wild set on Christian, even though it's probably not as good as something like a Tough set. Endurance set, terrible for Christian, don't do it. 20% mastery is wasted. He only gets 10% HP, that is not worth it. Holy set, also same thing, only 10% HP, the healing effect is not worth it. Feather set, HP, 10% speed, 10%. You know what, that's fine if you're going for like a speed meta arena thing where you wanted to guarantee your entire team went turn 1. That would be useful for him. I could give you that. Knight set, defense plus 10%, crit rate plus 15%. I'm going to go ahead and say don't use this one, because defense percent rate isn't really what Christian's all about. If you have HP, you are also buffing your abilities. So that's why I pick HP over defense for Christian. Guardian set, defense and effect resistance. Same thing, don't pick it. Bloodthirsty, attack percent 8% and leech 10%. Now, if you for some reason wanted to put this on a Christian and you for some crazy reason had a decent bloodthirsty set, he could probably fly with this, but it's not going to be the best set, not going to be the most effective. Hardening set, defense rate plus 10%, tenacity 30%, not worth it at all. Accuracy is attack and effect hit. Again, It's technically useful, but I wouldn't go for it. So that's what I would pick if I had to choose. If I had the God mode and I was able to pick the equipments I get and the subs that they get, I would go for 2 tough sets. Go for 2 tough sets, and I would want crit rate subs, okay? I would want HP subs, obviously. I would want attack percent subs because he has a self-attack buff, and that could be helpful. He could do some decent damage. And then probably just like another flat HP or something, because flat HP can be supplementary to HP percent, and it's very good on characters whose hits rely on HP percent. Okay, I pretty much talked about everything he does. Now I'm going to go through all the content in the game, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tier list rank him. Haha! Yeah, you didn't think you'd see a tier list today. But we're going to go into all the content. I'm going to do an example and tell you why I think he's whatever tier, starting with the guild boss. So let's get on the guild boss. I'm just going to slot him in and hit battle, and I will talk to you as it autos. I think that is a good plan. One thing I like about Christian in the guild battles is he is not wasting any time. He puts on his shield, the shield on your entire team, which does help keep them alive whenever the guild boss starts getting to like level 4 and 5. He can kill your guys, so that's helpful. Now he's not able to stun the guild boss, so all of his like secondary status effects are completely useless here. His multipliers are pretty low, his damage is pretty low. If your problem is surviving in Guild Wars, then your problem is probably your gear and not that you need help staying alive from Christian's shield. And for that reason, I'll say he's like a D tier for the guild boss. For the world map, climbing stages that you're stuck on and just progressing to get stars, Christian is by far one of the most useful characters to do this with, because not only is he able to activate a shield on your entire team, if I was fully skilled up, I could choose to stun somebody where I could like stun Naya and prevent my team from getting defense breaked. And then look, it also does a decent amount of damage. Like that's not a terrible amount of damage. Like I know it's not a lot. Of course, look at Margarita here do astronomically more damage, but you have to keep in mind this is chapter 6 hell. They have a lot of HP, so you got to cut them a little bit of slack for the damage. And then whenever it comes around to their turn, of course they're not really going to be doing much more damage than the shield was helping me stay alive with. So you see Eden here has a little bit more extra time to stay alive. Even if everybody attacked her, she would be fine. I have the chance to crit with the first skill, but it's not guaranteed. I have a chance to crit if I had exclusive weapon 3, but it's not guaranteed unless it's turn 1. So that still could be helpful. I think he's very, very good. He carried me all the way to hell entirely by himself, and he is still useful to me in hell mode. For this reason, for the story, campaign clear, star farming, I'm giving Christian an S tier. Now, let's talk about PvE, and we're going to do the Blue Mark Tower, the one I've been stuck on for a long time, because I think that this is a good test of his capabilities. So whenever you get down to brass tacks, and you really need to rely on your Christian, he is not very helpful for boss phases. Whenever we get to this boss phase, you're going to see it is the stealthing boss, the one that has, you can't really target him, you can only target him with area of effects, or if you have the other 2 ads killed, but he respawns the ads pretty frequently. He's good at keeping people alive to the boss wave. He's good at making sure my Margarita stays alive. If I was in a dungeon, he would be good at making sure the rest of my team stayed alive. But once you get to that boss phase, he's really not that helpful. And if I'm being honest, the first 2 waves of a boss aren't what should be stopping you anyways. If you're losing in the first 2 waves of a boss fight, you shouldn't be trying to do that boss fight. But if you're at the boss phase like I am here, and he's not really doing much to, you know, he's stalling, keeping my Margarita safe, putting on the second skill shield, keeping her alive a bit longer, so that is useful, but his damage is just not going to cut it. It just really isn't good enough to carry through like floor 18 and stuff on a tower mark. So he is useful, not as useful as he could be. There's going to be other characters that are way better than him for this. I will give him a B tier. And lastly is going to be PvP. We're going to pop this bad boy into an arena, and you can see him in action. We're going to go against this Holder team, because Holder is by far the scariest freaking carry in the game for early game and whatever. But I'm just now getting to hell, where Holder is falling off a little bit. Of course, this dude is weapon 5 exclusive 5. So he's going to be able to solo my entire team and steal back all of the damage that he did with lifesteal. He's not going down unless I stun him with Christian. This is where Christian shines. I'm going to take my turn 1 attack bar boosts All right, I'm going to put on a shield to ensure that everybody survives this next phase. And whenever you get into the arena, that's really important because there's not too many turns that can, be the defining factor of an arena. It could be over in like 3 turns. Now, if I had the choice, I could stun this holder with a 100% chance if I had exclusive weapon level 3. I do not have exclusive weapon level 3, so what I'm going to do is use the 3rd skill on him, and it's not going to stun. But he would be stunned right now, unable to put up his counter, unable to do all that, and then I would have plenty of time to get rid of everybody else and come in and finish him off after that. Because I'm not able to do that yet, because not everybody's going to have an exclusive weapon level 3 Christian, I'm going to go through the rest of this fight without that because I don't have exclusive weapon 3. And we'll see how helpful he actually is at that point. Now, I'm not going to go on him yet. I'm going to go on him last because I want to make sure that these other people aren't just sitting here tossing my salad as I'm trying to stun a holder over and over, right? Now, clearly I'm winning. Like, this is a match that should be game, set, match, considering he's almost down to 1 character and I still have all 5 of mine, but that is not how this works, unfortunately. I'm going to have to outplay him, in a sense, because is he on Fearless? Is he life-stealing? He is life-stealing, so I placed attack down with Eden, so he steals less life, and now I'm just completely free to take on this guy all on my own. He has his buffs up. I'm going to shield everybody and pray for a stun. 20% chance. Not enough, so we're going to go through. And really at this point I can auto because the AI of Christian is pretty intelligent. It's going to do everything that I would want it to do anyways if that 3rd skill is stunned, which actually it doesn't. But I'm still getting through it either way. Stun or no stun, holder kind of falls off late game. So if you're having problems with him in the early game, you don't really have to worry about it for too much longer. For PvP, I love that he sets you up turn 1 with a shield because you cannot rely on your nuke taking everybody out. You can't. They're going to have a tank. They're going to have something to come back like that holder. That shield protecting the rest of my team was very helpful. I like that. If he was exclusive weapon 3 and you could guarantee a stun on that turn 1, I would probably put him at like an A. But considering that he has to be exclusive weapon level 3 to do that, his first skill is only a 20% chance to stun, so it didn't help us at all. I'll probably put him at like a high C or a low B for in-game PvP. And y'all, that's pretty much like the whole hoedown for, Christian. He's a pretty good character. They give you one. He's kind of slept on, right? Because he's a starter character. But if you're able to get a couple copies, he's going to help you a lot in the beginning of the game. Potentially more than Holder could, because he could shield your allies as well. So, all in all, if I had to give him a general rating for a tier list, just for all intensive purposes, I'm going to give him an A tier. Stunning is very useful in PvE and PvP. It's not useful on PvE bosses, but that's okay because he gives in a shield to your entire team to help keep them alive. Very good at getting through the waves, and yeah, so he's useful. In all situations, he will be useful. Anyways, thanks for watching. That was my Christian review on Infinite Magic Raid. If you liked the video, obviously leaving a like and subscribing and hitting the bell is good for me in the algorithm, and I'll see you in the next one. But other than that, y'all, that's gonna do it for me today, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.